Anyone want to share just a little kind of recap from yesterday? Any kind of ahas that they had? Any kind of pondering you did last night? Any changes to what you thought you were going to do? Or if you had an idea of your book or your course and then you went, maybe I need to kind of rethink that, or maybe I need to just tweak it a little bit. Just anything that anyone wants to share about the experience from yesterday. Yes, Gabrielle?
Actually, yes. When we did the exercise of 4 different names of books and all that, and I thought about, you know, what I was going to do, and you said, oh, about the ocean, your line, whatever. Oh, yeah, all about water. So I'm going to add quite a lot about water to it, yeah, the power of water. So that was kind of one of my flashes, and then I went to bed.
So change the actual book to be based on the water?
No,
or?
still on the 4 elements.
Great.
But kind of, I was honing in more to the herbs.
Yes.
But now I'm honing in more to the water.
Yes.
So,
I think you'll find if you, water is sexy, herbs are practical in people's mind. So if you go with the herb theory and market the herb, then it's one kind of demographic.
That's right.
It's not a bigger demographic. Let's go with the water and then give them the herbs. Remember, sell them what they want, give them what they need.
Yeah. And that's what I was thinking too. And also I didn't add fire to it. Now fire is another really good one. So, but yeah. Anyway, that was my little inspiration.
And a good awareness, because intuitively the water will draw more if we'll have a bigger audience than just the herbs alone. Herbs will be the bonus to the information. Alrighty, and that's probably for somebody in the room who is 100% into herbs, that's probably quite offensive. I don't mean it that way, I just mean from a marketing perspective, from a sexy marketing perspective, water, beach, ocean has more appeal than herbs.
Good morning.
Good morning, Brini.
I'd like to thank you for a very sleepless night.
You weren't in my room next to me and you heard me snoring, were you?
All night I was writing 17-minute structures.
Oh my lordy. Oh my lordy. How many?
One thought that came to me, remember how you put up there, ask 2 questions, like for people to answer what's the most important question, etc. And I thought, why not make it into a competition that the one who comes up with the most questions actually gets a prize of you doing therapy for a couple of hours.
Great.
And if you've got 500 people and they're vying to have that therapy, how many questions will you get more than just 2 important ones? That was just a thought that went through.
That's a great idea. I'd probably put some limitations on how many therapy packages you offer, because you could be inundated with 500 free therapy packages and be working for the next 2 years. So I would probably say, okay, so yep, as long as you've got those kind of regulations very clearly spelled out. And then what you then do is if you've had 39 people actually apply for it and 1 winner, you've got 38 people, you can potentially offer a discounted package to. So it's a great marketing tool. Well done. Anyone else? Yes.
What I really loved, Maggie, yesterday was, and it's not to do with the book, it's to do with everything, but apply to get into my clinic. When you said that, that really resonated with me.
Great.
I live on the Sunshine Coast and there's a lot of therapists. I think, yes. So there's a lot of competition, and I also wrote down, basically it's about, oh yes, you also said, listen, my voice is, so there we go. It's the worst stuff. So basically, you said, there was something else you said too, if I don't value what I do, who else will?
Absolutely.
And I was looking at...
It makes me feel moved. Do you get that? If you don't value what you do, and you don't put a monetary value on that, you don't put an energy value on that, then no one else is going to even think about doing it. If you don't have that vibe, then nobody else is going to. And they'll cancel your appointments, they'll make them, they won't show up. All of that kind of stuff will be happening. Yeah.
So I hardly ever get any cancellations, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
So obviously I've got up there a little bit. I need to get up there
Yeah.
because I don't feel I charge enough,
Okay,
and I also offer packages like programs.
great.
And I was looking back on one of my Google reviews, and the guy said, "Wow, what great value!" Because he walked away with more. You know, he came. I got him to do an email telling me what he wanted to work on, and he had a huge, big, long list. And I said, okay, we've just got to focus on one thing at a time. So what is it? Knowing full well that a lot of those other things would drop away anyway, which they did. They all dropped off after the 3 sessions. But he listed all the things he walked away with, and he said, I never expected any of that, and you know, I got a great value for money. So when you said those 2 things yesterday, like I do offer far more, and I'll spend 2 hours, and even if I've got people waiting and I'm not done, I'll keep them there till I've got it. And I know that I've got to change that, because otherwise I'm trying to nail everything all in one session,
Yeah.
because I just, you know, I don't want them leaving unless they've gotten what they came for. So, yeah, those 2 things really.
The key is as well, when you're coming from that kind of mentality, is that the people in the waiting room, yeah,
I know.
they're really important too.
They definitely are. And I don't do it too often, because normally I get it done in the 2 hours. But even 2 hours, I shouldn't be doing 2 hours. Oh, well, I shouldn't say shouldn't, but I need to get it better to 1.5 hours.
Well,
Rather
it should
than
be
2.
kind of 1 hour 15 with a 15-minute break for you to just download, do your paperwork, breathe, disconnect, cleanse, and move on to the next one.
Yes. So.
Who falls into the habit of going longer in their sessions? Yeah, absolutely. I'm terrible. And I actually had a woman complain in my early days in my Picky Street clinic because there was a woman actually falling apart in my clinic, and I needed to put her back together in some kind of semblance of reality before she left it. But it took about 2 hours 15 to do that, so it went beyond the realistic time frame for people to wait. And this woman was so abusive and stuff, and I really had to just cop that. Yeah, no matter what, it's none of her concern that this other woman in my clinic was a mess. Yeah, it's not her concern. She'd had an appointment to come to, and I should have respected that and found a way to go out and speak to her and come back in, gave that person a little bit of breathing space so that they calm down a little bit, then actually give her 5 more minutes and head off. Or make another appointment for this person the next day to follow up with her or something. It was my kind of self-importance around having to help this person, having to get them to have a result today. And the person out front, yeah, her time is as important as my time and as important as the client. Absolutely. It's actually really important to put that boundaries around it and begin really practicing. So I just have a tiny little alarm that vibrates in my pocket 15 minutes before, so I know I've got 15 minutes to start bringing it to a conclusion. Remember, we're in control of the session, not the patient. Yeah, they don't know what's good for them. Yeah, so it's important that we actually manage that for them as well. And often very long sessions are so hard for them to process. So much happens that they get overwhelmed and you don't get clear results anyway.
I used to do that, and I just wanted to share what I had to come to terms with. When I was running really late, and not necessarily, I wasn't that busy, so no one was waiting in the waiting room really, but what I got clear about was that I was making it about me, needing to get to that result, so they left and they felt, but really when I got it, that hour to hour and a half, I always allow a half-hour gap between my clients now, just in case of panic attacks and what have you. Yeah, but even then, what I really got was when I got to terms with, hang on, I'm making assumptions about them wanting to achieve this right now.
Yeah.
And it's their journey, not mine. And so when they leave, I always make sure they're smiling and relaxed and but I point that out. Are you feeling different now than when you walked in that door? And they say, oh my God, yes. Beautiful, thank you. Then I've done my job. Let's see what we can achieve next session.
Yep.
And so it actually took me out of the equation, which was so...
It's refreshing and it's less pressure on you as a therapist as well when you take yourself out. Thank you. It's really, really
A little bit of change of direction, and but yeah, I'm guilty of exactly going over time, devaluing other people's time, and almost like feeling like you're kidnapping your client by taking them overtime.
Yeah,
Point of them saying, "Oh, I've got to get out of here." Yeah. So it brings you back into reality as well.
Yeah.
And one of the things that has come to light with me is predominantly the growing market for me is women.
Okay.
Powerlifting is my game. It's not only what I do. I do a lot of other stuff within the fitness realm, but there's a lot of women gravitating to weightlifting these days.
Okay.
And the whole book thing sort of came to me and going, well, how do I write a book without being a woman and draw women to read that book? Some do gravitate to male energy, but in the industry I see a lot of women are drawn to the other female energy because, that person is a female, so she's going to relate to me. So it certainly presented a conscious challenge.
Did you come up with any solutions overnight?
To tell the truth, no. But the awareness and the conscious awareness of rethinking it is part of my journey.
That's fantastic.
Of addressing it.
Ponder using the women that you have trained as interviews
Yeah.
so that your book is
Yeah.
immersed in female energy.
Exactly the
Yeah.
process I'm doing now.
Ponder interviewing other female weightlifters
Yeah.
who are trainers in
Yeah.
the field as well.
Yeah.
And so you're giving a sense of a balance of female and male energy in it,
Yeah.
rather than it's just a male telling you about how to train a female, yeah? Bring in the females who've experienced it, bring in other expert females, and then you've got a balance of that yin and yang, that male and female energy.
Yeah, coming back to bringing them experts in. And
Absolutely.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
But again, even if you're interviewing another expert and they kind of suggest a few things, it's your book, you then tweak it, you make it yours, where you're then giving your opinion, your expert opinion on the expert. Oh, wow. Does that put you in a more expert position? Yes. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it's,
So that's how to bring that balance of female and male energy into it.
Yeah. Thank you.
But you're already successful doing it, I'm assuming, so it means there are women who are attracted to the male energy in order to help them do the bodybuilding.
Oh, huge. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's just a matter of trying to capture that
Yeah,
larger market, growing market as well.
absolutely.
Some of them say to my female clients, "Oh, he's so intimidating." They go, "No, he's a teddy bear."
Yeah, you could actually play on the big teddy bear.
Yeah.
Oh my God, women in the room, who loves a big hunky teddy bear? Yeah?
With a great voice.
With a great deep voice, yeah? So, that could become your personality, that could become your brand.
Yeah.
There's a way, no, seriously, there's a way of actually turning that into a benefit, and you portray the soft, feminine, strong side in the book by being that soft teddy bear.
And that's already part of me as well, because I think it's one of the privileges of working in the industry. You actually get to experience a lot of female energy. It's one of those industries where you're getting a lot of that as a male. Especially being an alpha type male sort of thing.
I'd be looking at a brand around that.
I'm in. Show me the book.
The weightlifting teddy bear, there's got to be a brand.
Get into ours, cool.
I just suggest that I'm always drawn to train with men more than women as PTs. And I suggest that you've got a little bit of a block there, thinking otherwise, because a lot of women don't like to be training with women who look better than quality
Absolutely.
men.
But it's not a block as such, it's an industry awareness, you know, it's the industry.
Sure, okay.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't want to train with a teddy bear. I want to train with a solid man who knows exactly what. Like I had midwives who were male and they were
Just give us a
extraordinary.
hug, will you? Yeah.
Tough enough.
We've got a question over here.
Good morning, everyone. It was quite interesting this morning. I went to the lift to put the card, on the lift, and I turned it around and I saw, "I will unlock my potential."
I
A
know.
mantra. So, to share that with you.
That's why I chose mantras. This mantra and the one around the corner that I tried to get into, but it was booked out. They have unleash your potential, like mine, and this one has unlock your potential. But they're all connected. But
Yeah.
I love the potential stuff.
Good morning, Maggie.
Good morning.
Just started reading your book last night, and the latest one, the Unleashed.
Unleashed.
And I noticed you open with a bit of a metaphor story about little Maggie. I'm just wondering, is that a story that you reuse, or was that specifically written for that?
It was written for that.
Yes.
I do talk like my which one did I start with? One. I think I started with one in the Unzip book as well. But that each of the stories are a different aspect that's relevant to that book. So with the Wildly Happy one, I started with the story about me writing in the mountains, yeah, and that I'd wept until etc. And that was a very specific story for that because it was actually what inspired that book. Same as the Unleashed book. The sabotage patterns and procrastination patterns that I had from the age of childhood right through till about 39, were incredible. Absolutely, they just stopped my life completely. I say I was actually born 13 years ago after the stroke because I was just completely reborn. And to me, I feel like I'm 13 years old because of that. So the patterns that happened around sabotage and procrastination for me prior to the stroke were life inhibiting. They were health and death. I was on my deathbed at least 3 or 4 times up to that stage. So that was written specifically because of that book and the main theme in that book. So it's tailored. Any story that you're going to do like that, if you're not writing multiple books, then there has to be a very tailored version of your story if you're bringing into it in each one.
Well, that's awesome because it inspired me to look at my story, and I went back, and then because how long's a piece of string? And it's like, well, there's the little story, and then there's the teenage story, and the later years story. So that's a good exercise, and to break the story of your life down into little chunks and look at where you can use those. Yeah, so that was great. I really like that. And one more quick question around your name. Is Wild your real name?
Good question.
Because I love it. Because I'm in a name limbo at the moment. I'm carrying my
Oh, you changed the name last.
Oh, yes.
What happened? Tell me.
Well, I'm carrying my married name, separated 3 years, divorced, and
Yes.
my surname now has become very heavy for me.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh damn, what do I do? And
I
I'm going to
understand that completely.
Yeah, so I was going through all of that last night, and yes, I'm renaming myself.
I was actually interviewed by a
No
journalist in a massive article called that was about what's in a name and the vibration and the frequency of names, because my story with my name is that my birth name is not something that I've ever resonated with. It was a very traumatic experience growing up for me. So when I got married to my first husband, I lived over in the UK, and my name was Margaret Holt. Guess what happened in my life? Nothing. My whole life just stopped for 12 years. Like nothing happened. I lived his life, yeah? And I was married to a Jewish family. I'm not Jewish, I grew up Catholic. But for 12 years I was married to a Jewish family and my life altered. I became a good Jewish mama. I ran a kosher household. My whole life was around that family and my life stopped completely. So when we actually divorced, I was living in London at the time, and I knew I was going to come back to Australia. And I sat there thinking, well, I just can't go back to my maiden name. It's dirty to me. I just can't do it. And I've been called Maggie since I'd left home. I left home when I was about 15, and I run away to join the circus. And I actually worked in the theatre and education, travelled Australia for about 6 years or so. And so for me, under that, I used to be called Maggie, and they used to call me Maggie May. And so I took on, from the age of about 16, I took on the name Maggie. And so that had stayed with me, and I'd never changed it by default until when I left London and came back to Australia. And as I was leaving London, I was sitting with my ex-sister-in-law, and we got on tremendously, and we were sitting together one night having a champagne. And I said to her, I'm really strapped. I don't want to stay with Holt. I don't want to go back to my maiden name. I don't know what to do. And she picked up the London telephone book. And she said, let's choose your name. And I went, what? And she said, no, come on, let's actually just do this seriously. So we just flicked the book open at different places. And I said, well, actually, I don't want one. I just want to, I really feel a vibration of a name. So let's choose 5. And then I'll play with it for the next month before I leave. And anytime I meet anyone new, for a week, I'm going to introduce myself as this person. For a week, the next week, I'll introduce myself as this name, as this one. So I had a Maggie Van de Beer or something like that. It was a van, yeah. I had a Maggie Smith's, just something really, really simple. There was Maggie Wild. There was 2 others I don't even remember now. And I did that for that month. I just introduced myself as that identity. And I knew which one resonated with me, but what was curious was that every time I said, hi, I'm Maggie Wild, there would be this little kind of smirk in people's face. And I was like, ooh. It kind of had an impact on people. And so I chose, by the time I left London, I'd taken on that, and it felt like I'd come home. It felt like I found who I was. I found my identity. And I was literally only back for about 2 weeks in Australia, and I went to Melbourne. I married births, deaths and marriages and changed my name by default. Do you know it takes only the time I think I had a 9-minute car parking space out the front of birth, deaths and marriages, and it takes 9 minutes to change your name, change your identity, change your life, and about $80 application fee. But yeah, so it rebirthed me, as well as it was the first time I chose who I was. As a child, I was very manipulated, I was very controlled by others, and had no freedom at all right up till when I left home. And then from that point on, I just became whatever anyone wanted me to be, because I was very lacking in confidence. So if a boyfriend wanted me to be this kind of person, that's who I was. If my ex-husband wanted me to be Jewish, that's who I was. And so I just became what everybody else wanted me to be. And it wasn't until I chose who I was by symbolically choosing my name that actually I found out who I was. We've got a bit to get through this morning. We are looking at, obviously, creating your own online course is the focus of today. We're going to kind of mix that in with a little bit of branding that will include your book and your course, because they're going to be branded together, as long as they're connected. If you're doing a course based on your book, then of course they need the same kind of branding. So we're going to start today with your new branding identity. Funny, we were just talking about the name, and that's going to take into consideration the book and the course. We'll then go, why an online course? We're looking at planning and choosing the right type of course. There are many different models you could use, and so we'll go through a number of examples and just give you the kind of lowdown on what you think your course might be used to. Again, you would then do some research into finding out whether that's what you think or whether that's what people want, and which delivery platforms you can use, creating the content. We've got production and recording with our beautiful Lachlan this afternoon. So Lachlan's actually going to come and talk about how to get the best footage, a little bit about editing, a little bit about all that kind of stuff. He's also going to talk about how to start improving your profile on YouTube and things as well. He's been a master in helping a very big organisation do some big stuff on YouTube. So obviously that's all about video, so he'll talk a little bit about that as well. So there's some good, exciting stuff coming there. And overcoming our personal blocks this afternoon, and our last session, we're really going to be looking at that identity. Yeah, if we're going to take on the brand of a course developer and author and a digital marketer, then we need to look at that tail end voice that says, but. Yes, but, no, but, hell, but, oh my God, but. Yeah? We need to really address all of that. Cool? Do you think that's a bit of a plan for today? Alrighty. Oh, and of course, this evening the VIP networking. So that's going to be fantastic. Alrighty, so what I want you all to do, speaking of branding, take a deep breath. Roll those eyes one way. Roll them back the other way. Blink 3 times. And then I want you to stand. Let the energy come into your body. Really allow that spine. If it's too hard, really, please stay where you are. That's absolutely fine. Let the energy move down through your spine. So just close your eyes for a second if you can. If you can't, just keep them open. I want you to just bring the energy from the top of your head down through your body into the soles of your feet and just feel yourself fully present in the room. Think about being an author. Imagine holding your book in your hand. It's just arrived. Imagine what it might feel like the first time you hear a ka-ching in your inbox because somebody bought your book. Or a ka-ching in your inbox because somebody bought your online course. Somebody in the world is going to change today because they bought your course or your book. And then I want you to open your eyes and I want you to say, I am the upcoming author of, state your title.
And digital marketeer.
If you don't know the title, just say the book I'm writing. I'm an online course developer, and I am a digital marketer. And again.
Speak. And online course and digital marketeer.
Feel it. Come on, do it again. Get into it. Absolutely, feel it again. Do it the other way. I'm a digital marketer. I'm a course developer. I'm the upcoming author. Fabulous. How does that feel?
Yeah, good.
Good.
Isn't it exciting that you can actually really do this? You know, it's going to take work. I'm not going to give you any doubts about that. It takes commitment. Grab a seat if you wish to. It takes commitment. It takes a decision. Okay? There's a point where you have to decide, do I want that identity? A bit like when I decided I didn't want the identity of my married name and I didn't want the identity of my maiden name. I wanted to find out who I was. Was this going to be who I was? And it became who I was. So, is this something you want? On a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being not at all, bugger off, why am I here? And 10 being, oh my God, I'll steal your course if I can. How much do you want it? Yeah? If it's not a 10, work out for yourself, just ponder it, work out for yourself why it's not, what it would take to become a 10. Because when it's a 10, and we connect to that contribution statement that we did yesterday, and we say that contribution statement, we can make the 10 a 12, we can make the 10 a 14, we can make it a 10 a 20. And it will mean that any spare hour you do have, and any hours as you look at your diary or your calendar throughout the week, where you can see that there's a gap, where you can use 2 hours here to do, you know, record a couple of videos, or 2 hours here to write a chapter of your book. You will plan it into your diary if it's that important to you. But if it's not important to you, you'll walk out and leave here on Sunday and nothing will change. And you'll be looking at other people developing their books and their online courses thinking, oh, I could have done that. I should have done that. So one more time, take a deep breath. roll the eyes, roll them back, blink, 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 and tell me who you really are. Yeah, and again. Who feels it? I can see you, you're very, very good. Yeah, absolutely. That is where we need to get to that point where every cell of your body wants that. And when that happens, the work that it takes to get it actually isn't work at all. I actually, the kind of stuff that I have to do to get through my day to kind of get the admin and all of that kind of stuff out of the way, or manage my staff members to do that, I kind of get that done, and I like it because I know the long-term benefits that I receive from that, so it's joyous and I'm grateful for it. But in the back of my mind, I'm always going, when's that next hour that I've got to film such and such, or what's that next, when am I going to get, what am I going to do tomorrow? Oh, no, tomorrow I can film that, tomorrow I can edit that, tomorrow I can do that. Because to me, it's my identity now. That's how I help people. That's how I get my message out in the world. That's how I also recompense my family, how I also bring joy to my life as well. Yeah? And it becomes a mutually beneficial experience. Who wants that?
Oh yeah.
Deal, let's get it. So, your new brand. Remember we did the high-low highs yesterday with the stories, and somebody here this morning was talking about that they saw the different stories in themselves at different stages. Yeah? And how I have open my books with a story about myself, so I personalise the book based on a different story. So, you know, I've got the divorced woman story, I've got the overcoming a stroke story, I've got the whatever the identities are at the times that I was going through, and the wisdom that comes from that. So there'll be different stories that you have in your life that you often tell to people, or that you hold important to yourself, or that you know inspire people when you tell them. So I want you to choose one of those stories, and I want you to find somebody you don't know, who you haven't told your book idea to, and I want you to actually get up from your chairs, find somebody new, and actually introduce yourself as, I am the course developer, I'm the author, and I want you to explain. We'll take about 10 minutes to do this, so it'll take about 4 or 5 minutes each, where one person explains to the other person their book idea, and then shares a high-low high story about themselves. So this is when it was great, then this happened, and then it was great again because I discovered this. Yeah? Does everyone understand what they need to do? Have a play with it. The more that you can get used to doing this, the more the ideas for your books will begin to flow, and the ability to be able to bring story into your books will flow tremendously as well. So, grab somebody you don't know. Wow, haven't you all got stories to tell? And your name. Oh, that's so funny. I didn't mean this to be a name changing course. Absolutely, cross it out, turn it over, put the new name on the back. How did you go with introducing yourself as to somebody else more intimately? Yeah, felt good?
Yes.
Yeah?
We needed
I actually
tissues.
did notice there were their tissues, exactly. I noticed there were a lot of people who were really stepping into it from the head to the heart and making it really part of themselves by actually communicating it through voice. And it's actually a brain training technique that I incorporate, because if we learn in many different ways, and new neural pathways develop in many different ways, and to actually voice it and have the vibration and the frequency of your voice saying the words as well will change the kind of DNA of your body. And I could see that happening for many of you in that process, and it's just beautiful to watch. It's an honour to watch from here, seeing you taking ownership of a new part of yourself. How good is that? Alrighty. Did you, as you were listening to your partner, did you feel the need to interject in their story, or did you just listen? And you don't need to answer that, that's rhetorical. It's just, I just want you to think about that. So if we do that kind of exercise again, I want you to think about your active or passive role in whether you were a good listener, whether you allowed them to express their story, or whether you thought you had to be the fixer, whether you interjected. Just kind of think about the kind of experiences that you had together and whether that helped you or hindered you. Just have an experience of how the stories were told so that you can then understand when you're telling your stories in your books, whether it's your story, whether it's a story of a case study, whether it's a metaphor, whether it's a made-up fiction story, when you're telling that and weaving it through your book, then you can understand what's happening in the listener's head, in the reader's head. Because what happens is it's a natural human ability that when we're told a story, from very young, even as a small child, our brain automatically tries to put ourselves into the story. So we're automatically trying to think, where do I fit in this? Does this resonate with me? Do I resonate with the hero or the heroine? Do I resonate with the villain? Do I resonate with so that part of ourselves is trying to find connection. And so your reader is going to be trying to find connection with your stories. And so by understanding when you're sharing your stories here today and with somebody else more intimately, I want you to begin to understand what the other person is experiencing as well. So when you're listening to somebody else and then when you're sharing, really become aware consciously of how you're experiencing that, because your reader is going to be experiencing similar things. Yeah? They're going to be wanting to say, oh my God, that happened to me. And if you've really nailed it, as they're reading it, they're saying to themselves, it's like she's in my head, or it's like he's in my head. And when that happens and you start getting those kinds of messages from your readers and from your online course members, you realise you've nailed the human connection. And information is wonderful, information is incredible, and knowledge is power. I absolutely believe that. But if you don't have human connection in it, it doesn't open the cells of the body, the DNA doesn't change, and the knowledge doesn't become wisdom. Knowledge is just knowledge, it stays in the head until it becomes wisdom. When it becomes wisdom, it becomes a truth in our body. And then we learn it for life. Knowledge is just knowledge. I was kind of in the moment, I can't remember the exact words. Knowledge is just knowledge, but
stays in the head.
That's right, it just stays in the head, yeah? Until it becomes cellular, until it becomes a feeling, until it becomes, they own it as a truth, it doesn't stay for life. So if you really want to impact the world by writing this amazing wisdom in your books and on your online courses, then you have to have the human element in it. You have to be able to help your reader and your learner understand at a cellular level and own it as their truth. Or at least, even if they don't agree with it, own their opinion of the truth that you're sharing. So it has to open their cells. And that's why I was looking for that emotional connection, for that opening of the as you told your stories, to see if the cells of your body were really bringing that in and owning the identities. Yeah? Does that make sense to you? When our cells feel exactly what we're thinking and what we're saying and it all resonates together, doesn't it feel like an awakening? Yeah? That is true awakening. When the cells are in alignment with the words that are in alignment with the emotions. And that is what we're aiming for. If you can even get an element of that, your readers or your course members, to feel a pinch of that when they're doing your work, you will have them as a customer for life.